we not just worship bands singing and then sharing the word, but we bring media, the videographies, and we put it online, and where live video is being like streaming and all those things. So that's our common shared space. So for us, since our ministry is based on the music, not just the music, but of course the word backs the music. So that's how we are bringing resources together and then working out things together to make sure that they get involved physically also.
Have you brought stories of transformation through Jesus Christ?
It's not that anybody just coming in and then doing it. So they are signing up and then they are joining into this movement.
Creating a shared space. You have identified a certain need, correspondence, online, whatever. The people can't come here because they can't take 3 years off. They can't take whatever time off. And we're seeing the decline in number of registrations. And that's a tragedy because we are equipped with the tools, and we are more connected, and this, as I've explained, is a real potential of how you can share your faith, and Christians should do that. So here's my introduction and
Jesus Online. Here's how it works. When you launch the app, you will open on the recent content section, which shows you all the latest videos on Yes He Is. But the first thing we want to do is sign up. Slide open the left-hand main menu and select Connect Register. Then choose your preferred social network. This really is the most important step as it keeps us in touch with you and you in touch with the latest trends and content to share. Here's how to find content. Slide open the main navigation menu again, where you can view content by categories, like featured, popular, and trending. You can also search for content that is particularly relevant to you and your friends. And here's how you share it. Once you've found something you like or you think is relevant to a friend, simply hit share at the top right. Then choose your social media of choice and post it. This is what the content looks like on Facebook. When your friends touch play to watch, they're taken to our viewing platform. On watching the video, they're invited to respond to a simple question, which is, did this video speak to you about what's happening in your life today? If they choose to continue, they're taken to an appropriate notifications along the way. And that's how Yes He Is works.
It's something like the YouTube. There are videos on various topics. Let me just close this cookies. Benjamin. Okay, come Benjamin. So the first thing you do is sign up. I'm going to show how it's done. We have Benjamin. What social media platform do you use? Facebook, Twitter, Music Plus? Sure. Which one? Okay. Log you in to Facebook. What Benjamin does then, he signs up creating an account on Yes He Is. So Facebook asks you permission to post and you say okay. Now it's creating an account for Benji. Yeah. So this is what calling Benji's account looks like. You can see that it shows you how many times Calling Benji has shared his faith online. Right now he's just created his account, so it's still 0. How many have viewed what he has shared? And how many have responded to the gospel? And from which corner of the globe as well? So because of the nature of social media, people are so connected. Some of your friends may be sitting in another country and perhaps they are led to the gospel and they make a decision for Christ. You'll see these counters beginning to tick. So as you share videos. So what I'm going to do now is actually, we're going to watch a video and then we'll share it on Carling's platform. Okay, so now where do you go to search for content? Let's say go right on top out here, right? At the right corner. Can you see that? So now I'll just for demonstration, I'll use one video which we prepared during the Power to Change program, and it's. Have you heard of Anand Pillai? Anyone? Okay.
I am Anand Pillai. My story starts like most stories, but there is a good news and there is a bad news. Several years ago, my father incurred a huge financial loss in his business. And on the same day, he comes home to hear his relatives and my mother talk about the good news that a son is born. But when he shares about his financial loss, that same good news becomes bad news. My relatives and everybody looks at me as being the evil child because I brought the bad luck. You know, my father was definitely disturbed. He changed my birth name from Venkatesh to Anand because that is what he said this boy owes. He's needy. He needs. My father was definitely disturbed. He changed my birth name from Venkatesh to Anand because that is what he said this boy owes. He's needy. He needs joy. He needs happiness. My father was my best friend. But somewhere when I was a little more 9 years old, a tragic thing happened where my father, we were told, was cast with an evil spirit and he started behaving very strangely. For about 6 months I think he was happy, but one day as I was playing outside, my father was alone. I came in and I saw my father hanging. Went to the kitchen, cut the rope, and as the body fell down, the question that was going on is why did my father do this? But from that year in 1970 onward to 1980, there were 3 more deaths, totally 4 deaths. And my sister said, I am the reason for my mother's sadness. So she went into the kitchen, consumed poison, and she died. My auntie, my mother's younger sister, she went to the kitchen, poured kerosene, and she died. And then in 1978, my younger sister, who at that point in time was just 16 years old, she was diagnosed to be having cancer. When we took her to Kidwan Memorial Cancer Institute, they said she's got only about 3 more months to live. And as we were coming back, I remember I'm not going to live in the home to see another death. I want to run away and die somewhere so that nobody knows about me. And in that process, unfortunately, I could not take a decision because I did not know if I die, will I go to heaven or will I go to hell? And I found that my sister had died 3 days before, and I said, I'm going to end my life. And I tied the rope. Being a scout, I knew how to do it. I put the rope, and just when I was about to put my neck into the noose, I saw this cupboard which was open and there was a book there, the Gideon's New Testament. If I read it and die, okay, I want to read it, I want to know the story of Jesus because I had heard the story of Jesus in my school, but I want to know more about it. I did not have the patience to read all of it. I said I'll go straight to the introduction. But interestingly, there was another chapter or another page which said where to find help when you're sorrowful or when you're needing joy. And more important than that, there was another section which talked about what the Bible talks about Christian virtues and happiness and joy and peace. So since I wanted peace, I said, okay, let me see what the Bible talks about peace. And there was some page number given and some reference that was given. I remember John 14:27. I had no clue what that was. Anyways, the page number was given. I went and read that. And as I read that, it was a very different passage. It said, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Neither let it be afraid. For once I said, wow. And he's also so confident and so firm that he is saying, do not let your hearts be troubled. Neither let it be afraid. So I went to another passage, being in that same book, Romans chapter 5 verse 8, which was actually the turning point. Because that particular passage, it said, God demonstrates His love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ Jesus died for us. And I said to myself, if ever there is a God, I would like to believe in this God who does not wait for me to become pure, for me to do anything. He sends His Son to die for us. In the end, I prayed a prayer. I said, dear God, you are a Christian God and I want to know more about you. I felt I had not prayed that prayer the way Christians pray, because I knew how Christians prayed in school. So I reprayed the prayer, including a lot of thou and thee. I think God heard my first prayer. And that day evening, as a result of a combined study, I had to meet a friend of mine. I said, I want to know more, or I have become a child in God's family. Begin a relationship by you talking to your father and your father talking to you. So how do I hear it? He said, read the Bible, and hear what God is speaking to you. And you speak back to him by just talking. I did not know how to pray. He said, no, you can just talk to God. And I thoroughly enjoyed that relation. As a result of this, I also took my studies seriously. I started studying because there's this beautiful verse in the Bible where it says, Colossians chapter 3 verse 23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if you're working for the Lord and not for men. I've thoroughly enjoyed this relationship. I've enjoyed my work. I've enjoyed my life. I've been in the corporate world for the last 33 years, and I'll continue to be there, thoroughly enjoying what God has asked me to do. I did not tell you this, but my father changed my name from Venkatesh to Anand so that I can be a joyful person. What my earthly father intended, my heavenly father accomplished. Now it's just not my name on it, I am on it. 7 years ago, I took this decision and I had a new experience. I found joy in what I did and I'm enjoying it every day of my life. If you desire to have that new experience, you can.
Next thing he does is he goes to his social media platform. Right now he's signed in using Facebook. So he said, okay, I like this video. Perhaps I know some friends on my Facebook who would, be encouraged by it. So he.
Everything that's gone wrong in this world. Yeah, well, I don't believe in dentists. What do you think about it? If there's such a thing as dentists, then why do so many people have broken, infected, and missing teeth?
I can't help people stupid enough to come to the dentist and get their teeth fixed up and their mouth fixed up.
Exactly, and that's the same way with God. You can't help anyone who doesn't come to Him if they insist on doing things their own way.
Jesus Christ went to the cross to take the penalty of your sin and mine. You'll perhaps use in 4 areas: healing, justice, love, and forgiveness. They met in one place on a hill called Calvary.
And then you had the company, and there was a certain barrier that prevented consumers engaging with each other. But now in the information age, no longer can a company exist with that barrier. Because if a company renders bad service or a bad product, I gave an example of a website, a internet shopping website. Someone bought a mobile phone and through the internet, and when the person came and delivered it to his house, he opened the phone and there was a piece of brick in the box. So the first thing he did, he tried to approach the company. The company said, no, sorry, we can't refund. The problem is with the delivery and that. So he went online, he started sharing his experience online. And before you knew it, it went viral. And the press caught up on it and published it in the newspaper. So I got to know about it because it was published. So what sits here is, you have the core idea, which vision, mission statement, etc. You have the person that you're trying to reach out to. You have a shared space, and you have your organization. So what is your vision?
Soul.
Pardon?
Our vision is winning soul.
Winning souls.
Yeah.
Now, where did this vision come from?
It came from the Lord. We prayed about it.
So, in a sense, how did it come? Is it just
Impression in my heart.
in your heart?
Yeah.
And how did that form?
I put it into practice, started working on it.
Okay. Now, let me take a step back, because usually this is a management lab, a situation where people, and winning souls, you see people who are, lost. They are searching for answers despite whatever situation they are seeing. So in touch with their own humanity, but as also in touch with the humanity of their consumers. Okay, so as the needs of the consumers change, that's something that we need to assess and then evolve that in order. That's a choice that we need to make as a ministry or as an organization to be able to more meet those needs. Now that's the mutual transformation at large. That it's not a transformation where you're doing one thing now and then 10 years later you're doing something else. Totally transformed. Not that kind of transformation. Let me give you an example on that point. Looking at this. Now, as I shared my about 5 years with SciAds, okay, I'm going to give an example. So, SciAx is a residential course. You have to come there, study minimum 2 years, 3 years, and spend. We don't have at that time. SciAx didn't have any short-term courses like you were sharing, Brother Baban. You would like to. Where he had to make a sacrifice. He wanted to study further, but so as their director of communication, when I served SciAx for 5 years, a lot of requests such as Babang, I'd like to study theology at that high level, but I can't leave what I'm doing. I need to do it maybe online, maybe correspondence, maybe they gave a certain sense. Business would then, last like that. If people are not coming, if people don't want what you are giving, you can't then exist. Because eventually you'll have to kind of close down. So that's what I took you that earlier barrier, where you had that barrier there, and now to really operate in the digital age, this is something that can be created. It's something that's a must for Christian organizations as well.
We want to build up relationship. It's not just winning souls and then, because here in Nagaland, these part-time jobs and all those things, like, we cannot provide, and then this small scale industries and all, like, it's very far again because of the situation in the government and all those things. So one way, the reason why we are getting involved in the social change and cleaning up, and one of the main things is, like, by doing that once a month or once in 2 months, we cannot keep the city clean. But our main purpose is, of course, to make a sense of responsibility to the young people. But not only that, but we are looking for fellowship in a common place where we are not trying to be so religious. Sometimes because people get scared of, like, when they are newly born again Christians, and then they step into a new environment, and then they get awkward and they cannot follow with us. So one way of getting involved in social work and all those things is, like, just to build up relationship in a common place where they will be comfortable with, where everybody will come as a common person and then work together, not as a pastor, not as a new born again person, but coming together. And then our main intention is keeping them engaged, because we cannot just let them, okay, you're born again, now go and then do whatever you like. But we want to mentor them, we want to build them up, we want to build up relationship. So that's the reason why we have been engaging. We have been trying to work together, and then one thing we thought, like, the best way is, like, when we work together and then keeping our city clean. So the purpose is been served, like, we are keeping the city clean as well as we are building up relationship. In fact, when we have done that, and then still now we are doing that, for me personally, I have met a lot of wonderful people which I have never met in the church. And then these are awesome people. Some of them are very together, some of them are not even class 10 pass. But these people are awesome, community dedicated. And then they are all out for it. And then, in fact, in our ministry, in our leadership team, there are about 6-7 of them who have joined our ministry through this social work. And then they are genuinely powerful and committed, dedicated Christian now. So like that. So our main purpose of soul winning and then getting involved in a common place to work together as a social work is just to have fellowship and build up relationship with them. Otherwise, it becomes difficult if we just leave them out like that. So that's the part of, like, core value, core idea.
Yes, yes. So, building through relationships out of whatever platform, whether it's Facebook, etc. If you get into that, for instance, Babang mentioned he has a certain way to communicate, build that sense of engagement. So he could use social media to connect with his people more on a real-time basis. So building goals into your social media strategy when you get onto it. That's a very foundational part of it. Now I was going to draw a diagram, maybe you can do that. You can draw a diagram right down. That's your foundation, is the AB plan, the anchor bolt plan, the foundation of your house. Is the goals of your social strategy. The second thing is engagement. How do you engage? Look at opportunities of how you can engage with your audience, whether it's a Bible study, whether it's a campaign, etc. Alright? That's your building blocks. The third part is what is part of the house? You need windows, right?
I'm an audio guy. I'm going to be talking majority on websites today because that's one of the professions that I do, but I have been an audio guy for probably more than 15 years now. I have radio background in the United States. I've started, I was involved with a radio station that in our city, we have 30 plus radio stations, FM radio stations, and we were probably around 25th or 27th most liked radio stations. And when I left, we were number 6 in the city, exceeding most of a lot of the more popular secular stations as well. So for Christian radio, that was a major accomplishment that our radio station was able to do. So my roots are radio. I learned audio. I learned audio actually through church. I started as a volunteer and ended up becoming more of what Bryan is now. So just going to quickly just take a look at this board that the All Baptist Church was so nice to find for us, so that we can just kind of take a look of some of the components of a board. A lot of people, when they first start in audio, they look at this thing and they see 50 knobs and buttons and all this, and it becomes very like a big monster. How am I going to... I want to help out in audio, but I have no clue what to do here. And I'm just going to break up the board in a couple of things to show you how simple it actually is. An audio board, I won't ask him to change the view here, but an audio board is basically channels, and then we have outputs, and then volume of outputs. So what I'm just going to quickly show you is this one. This line from top to bottom is one channel. An audio board can consist of one channel and one output. An audio board can consist of 56 of these channels and one output. So it really depends on the audio system that you are using in your church. It can be very simple. I have a 4-channel board at home that I use for recording and things like that. We have I used to work with an 80-channel board at my church. I've mixed about 50 microphones at the same time. It's not a fun thing to do, but it's possible. This is called a slider. And you'll see here we have just a number 1, number 2, number 3. It is extremely, especially on analog boards, digital boards today, it gives you a chance to actually label these channels. But in an analog board, which probably 99% of you are using right now, there's just a number here. One of the major things that I see in Nagaland and really in India, everywhere that I've taught sound and I've help churches understand sound is, when there's feedback, let's say, people are quickly, doing this, trying to figure out, okay, which channel is that coming from? Buy some tape or something, some cellophane tape or something like that you can put below these channels, and just very simply write mic 1, mic 2, or pastor, or electric guitar. That way you can very quickly just find that channel that might be giving you problems. That will take care of half of your problems, in all honesty, is just labeling your board. A lot of churches say, well, the channels don't change. Well, that might be okay for the person who runs every single week. But like yesterday, I think the pastor here mentioned that they have a problem that everything falls apart when the main audio person goes away. Well, that might be fixed if the channels are actually labeled. So that is a very practical thing that can help you. Is just with some cellophane tape or something like that. Just write down with a marker that what the channels are. Okay. As I said, this is a slider. This is the mute, and this is something else that I don't see people use very often, is the mute button. A lot of time feedback happens from a microphone that's been left on or open, as we say in audio. It is very important when, let's say, the worship set is completely over with, that you actually just take a second and turn off the channels that are not being used, and that's going to save you from possible feedback from, let's say, the podium microphone that is just sitting up there for no reason, and it hears something from the stage monitors, and that the stage monitors will kind of feed back into itself, and then that's what you hear as feedback. So use your mute button. This is pan. Most churches don't use this. Pan is what it says. It'll give you sound in the left side of your auditorium or the right side of the auditorium, depending on how you change it. This is useful for some churches. This is a very simple board, but some churches have what's called groups, where you can take. Let's say if you look at the first 4 channels here, and these 4 channels are your vocals, and the number 5 through 8 is your instrument group. A lot of the boards that you're using has instrument groups or groups on one side where you can. If it's a simple board, then you can use a pan and just push it to the right, and that's going to say an instrument group 1. And then you move all of these to that pan. Then all of the volume. Let's say you've got this changed here and this changed here, and all. You've got it mixed however you want. But you want to turn down the overall volume of all of those channels, or you want to turn up all of the sound of all of those channels. Then you can come over to the group volume, and you can just turn them all up and all down. That's extremely easier when, and of course I wish this board actually had groups on it, and I could actually explain that to you a little bit more in depth, but that's very good for, let's say your vocals are too quiet, you can't hear anything. Instead of turning up all of those vocals and maybe causing feedback, turn down the instruments. You got this one here, and this one here. And then they've got like an arrow here that says, this is where it is supposed to be set. Don't ever touch that again. I see that a lot in churches, and it's completely impractical thing to do for 2 reasons. Let's say this is a channel for a guitar. The humidity in the room itself will change the tone of a guitar, the sound of a guitar. It might be a completely different guitar with a completely different pickup inside, which is again going to make the sound of the guitar entirely different, which is going to make this completely incorrect. The vocal of a person. A person's going to come up and they're going to be a male person like myself talking, and I have a very low voice within a microphone. Another person's going to come up and they're going to have a very high voice, or we might have a female person come up. And again, this is going to change every time a different person comes up. If they have a cold, and it's the same person that uses that microphone every week, again, you're going to have to adjust it a little bit depending on their voice of that particular day. So as easy it is for a church to say, this is where it's supposed to be set and never touch it again, is really where a lot of problems come, because this is not set properly. So again, I'm going to go into the how-to on this section in just a couple of minutes with Younger. Actually, if you want to come on up, we'll be about a minute from that. And then this last one, well, not the last one, but the one that you can change is the gain. And this is just volume. So really, when you look at a board, I started at the bottom and go to the top. Really, you start at the top and then you go to the bottom. So your signal level will start where the gain is. So you'll, depending on the whatever it is, you want to turn up your volume or turn it down. A lot of boards will have a button here in the middle called low cutoff, and that is in decibels. It's going to cut everything below either 100 hertz or 80 hertz, depending on what the board is. But that's all the really low sounds. And most of what you're running on your board isn't going to need anything below 80 hertz. And again, that's something else that's going to help you reduce your feedback, is using that button.
We have to have interaction. You have to tell us about what your goals and visions are. You know, what you would like your church to accomplish.
It's not the ideal view presentations like this, but I really enjoyed getting to talk to you folks, and hope that some of it was beneficial. Hope that a lot of it was beneficial for you, and I hope that you guys connect with me on email and Twitter and anything else you want to, if I can be of any assistance.
With Tech Media, I started out as a volunteer. I worked under somebody like Bryan and just learned the basics of you know, what is needed to do media in a church. So don't feel like you have to have an education or major experience in order to do what you're doing. You can just start very simply with what you have and grow from there. If you need more training, then you can call on people around you that know what they're doing, and you can just ask them questions. There's a lot of professional groups here that do audio that you can work with them for a little bit of time and get an understanding of audio if that's something that's needed. So I just want to say that Bryan, myself, and others, we've all started somewhere. And you don't, you know, somebody asked the question, what kind of schooling Bryan had. He didn't even go to school for any of this. So it's the same thing for myself. We all started very basic. In the first church that I went to, it was a very small, very basic place. And
I just want to ask, like, what software would you recommend to download, like for Sarawak, for editing and all? And like Sir Bob was saying about the equalizer and all. So like, what software would you recommend?
Windows Movie Maker. That was for Win 7, I believe. But now we're in Win 8 Windows, so maybe Win 8 doesn't have that. But
you can download it though.
Yes. It's called Windows Movie Maker. That's very basic and very simple to use. So that is one. Yeah. And besides that, there are so many other softwares available, but you know, you have to buy it, or you have a trial period of 30 days. You can use it for free. So perhaps during the 30 days you can practice and see whether it is useful for you, whether you can use it or not. And then, but meanwhile, I recommend Windows Movie Maker just for practicing, you know, the editing.
As for myself, I really wouldn't say there's any software that I used in order to learn these things. You can use a program called Audacity. It's a free program. You can use that software to record what's happening in your church, and then you can just practice with the volume and different settings within that software to help you learn a little bit better, to you know, make it sound better. As far as training and all these things, I was blessed with the ability to learn from somebody like Bryan. We had a structure in our church that enabled us to start out as volunteers and then kind of move up the ladder. Same thing that they have in their church. So I was blessed with that. That was the foundation. Radio also helped me learn what I do. But for somebody like you, let's say that you don't have an equalizer in your church, or you don't have somebody like myself or Bryan to sit behind and watch what they do and learn from them. Google's a great place. There's all kinds of information out on YouTube that can kind of give you an idea of you know, how to use these particular devices and the gear that we use in order to make our church services better. But you can start there definitely if you don't have any other resources. But there's you know, find somebody that knows what they're doing and just watch what they do. Is the best thing, and eventually you'll have an opportunity in your own church to every week through a practice, if they don't allow you on a weekend, to go in and just learn a little bit about what audio is all about.
Another great resource for learning software and such is a site called lynda.com that I'll put up on the screen now. Or a subscription, but it is a powerful learning tool You've got all kinds of different types of software you can learn. If you want to learn video editing on several different platforms, it's in here. If you want to learn audio editing on several different platforms, it's in here. Photography, and you can learn, if you're a self-starter and just need to figure out how to get things going, this is one of the best places online to do that.
Exactly. Thank you, Bryan, for that. Yeah, indeed, there are a lot of resources. You can even search on the YouTube, you know, there you'll have a lot of training tutorials, video tutorials, whatever. So you got to make use of online resources. You can learn how to edit, you can learn what A to Z, you know, everything is there. So you have to go online also. That is, yeah, besides that, practice again.
Are there, you know, specific microphones, you know, that can be used?
There's definitely microphones out there that will help you. Phones are designed to pick up everything, and sometimes that microphone is going to pick up elements within on your stage or elsewhere that's going to give you more problems than what you're trying to solve. So the better solution, in my opinion, is to work with that person. You know, if they got their microphone down here and they're already soft-spoken, they're not going to hear very much. If you know, just work with them on the placement of the microphone. Any person that's up on stage that's on a regular intervals within your services, you can work with them, and they are teachable on how to use a microphone, because you can remind them every service. There's some people that you have to remind every single time how to use a microphone, but they'll eventually get it. So if they're very soft-spoken, just make sure that they, as I said, about 6 inches from their face. If they're very soft-spoken, then you can go onwards up to about 3 inches without causing too many problems. Bryan, do you have anything to add to that?
That will take, you know, any voice and make it sound exactly the way you want it to sound. You have to work with the people to use microphones properly. They're designed to be used a certain way. Different microphones maybe have a little bit different ways that you can use them, but overall they need to be held in a certain way, and you need to just keep reminding the people how to do that. We do that with, you know, we had a new minister start just a few months ago, and he would get up to the platform and use the microphone and hold it way down by his chest, and over several weeks we would work with him, and finally he's holding the microphone where he needs to now.
Something about audio software type of like that is used for live monitoring sounds, and using that can we increase the sound quality and able to give that good quality, and what kind of software would you recommend?
It's going to listen to everything that's happening within your service, and just graphically you can kind of see, you know, basically if there's a feedback or something like that, that feedback's going to be very obvious. EQ, passive, active EQ, I think is what it's called, or something like that, to where it kind of gives you a visual eye of what's happening, and usually you can have a microphone connected to that. I'm working with Face Harvest on their audio system, so later on we can work on that together and hopefully help you out.
Gets more better when put in practice, or let's say in practical. So is there any way that like our friend Bob said, you learn quite a lot from Bryan. So is there any ways we can also learn from you guys through practical measures and all?
You are most welcome to join us. We invite, in fact, we come to cover programs here in Dimapur along with Sinai Ministry. So we do live events sometimes, or whenever we come here, you are most welcome to come and learn from us, join us. And also, Kohima people, of course, again, you are most welcome to come and join in, come in for any kind of training, media training. Bob is there, I'm also there, and we go out on shoots, we go audio live streaming, and we are available. Besides us, you know, you might be knowing other people who are doing it already in your church members. So I suggest that you also go, you know, if you approach them, I'm sure they'll be glad to help you. So you're welcome.
You want to do a training like this, a very practical training within your church. That's something that Wopong and myself have done in the past as well. So if you'd like us to come and spend some time with your tech guys, give them some practical training. That's something else that we will be willing to do as a ministry.
The volunteers, they go through levels, like level 1, 2, 3. So obviously they get better as they go through the levels. But what we want to ask is like, do we recruit all the volunteers that come in? Like some volunteers who don't have any knowledge, they just come for volunteering. So what we want to ask is like, do we recruit anyone without even a single knowledge of anything, like from level 1? So do you suggest that we take up anyone, or should we take up those who have at least a little knowledge of all the stuff that's going on? Yeah, thank you.
Out of our 85 plus volunteers that we have, I can name 3 of them who have any sort of professional or previous experience with technology. All of the rest of them are housewives or retired or students or CPAs, whatever the case may be. So we train them from scratch, and it's amazing when you provide a good training program for them, how well some of them can do. I mean, I've had professional media folks come from non-church world and tell me that they would put our crew up against their professional news team any day. When you look at the training outline that we've set up, you'll notice that as a new volunteer, you don't even get to put your hands on a piece of gear until your 5th session with us, which is likely no less than 5 weeks into the process. So it's going to be a while before you can even lay a finger on a button or turn a knob. So that helps quite a bit. And then in addition to that, we're just supervising these folks very, very closely. And every volunteer who is a part of the team takes this stuff very seriously, and they're going to make sure that the new folks take it as seriously as they do.
Very good.